The new MLS playoff format is awful.
Yeah.
I really don't know if I have enough words to describe how much I don't like it, but I'm going to try. Also, the fact that I have not run into a single person on MLS Twitter, on any of the subreddits, or in person that thinks these changes were good or beneficial should say something. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. MLS has a habit of switching up their playoff format every few years. Sometimes it's an improvement, but sadly a lot of the time it feels unnecessary. I want to mention Danny T Radio. He has a great video about all the previous playoff formats used in MLS. I'll link that below for anyone interested. I won't be going over any of those formats here, except for the most current system. 7 teams in each conference make it into the playoffs. The 1 seed on either side gets a first round bye, and each game is single elimination. The higher seed gets the home field advantage all throughout the playoffs. That's pretty simple, right? MLS has had wacky formats in the past, but this seems really simple and fair. Not too many teams make it in, and you reward your top seeds for performing better than everybody else. Now let's look at this new format. Now 8 teams from either conference will make it into the playoffs with a single elimination play-in game between the 8 and 9 seeds. From there, it will be a best-of-3 series in the first round, moving into a single elimination game for the conference semifinals, conference finals, and MLS Cup final. There are so many things that I do not like about that idea, and I'll start with how many extra games this adds to a team's season. 2023 will be the first time every MLS team will be playing in their regular season, US Open Cup, Leagues Cup, and for some teams, CONCACAF Champions League and the playoffs. That's anywhere between 3 and 5 separate seasons or tournaments in one calendar year. And a team could end up playing in almost 60 games if they qualify for multiple tournaments. I know this is an extreme example, but say your team is an 8 seed needing to play in the play-in game. Then they play all 3 games in their first series and they make a run all the way to MLS Cup. That's a max of 7 playoff games, where in last year's format, the maximum would have been just 4. Adding this playoff format, along with Leagues Cup, maximizes the amount of games, which as a fan is awesome to see, but logistically is going to hurt a club. Veterans and injury-prone players are not going to play in every tournament or every regular season game. You're going to have guys on load management or straight up missing tournaments altogether. You're going to have teams decide which tournaments are a priority. Another reason as to why this format is bad is how it switches formats 3 separate times throughout the tournament. I'll talk more about the 8-9 play-in in a second, but once the 8 teams are set, you have a best-of-3 series. The one good thing I'll say about this is it isn't about goal aggregate. I do love CCL and the goal aggregate format for its own reasons, but sometimes that can lead to the first game being reserved, especially if the home team is trying to prevent any away goals. The best-of-3 is purely about wins. However, if the teams are tied at the end of the 90 minutes, a shootout will decide the winner of each individual game. I get not wanting to play the extra 30-minute period, potentially 3 times in 1 week, but the league has just shown you that playing time is not necessarily a concern of theirs. I will say, I do like the playoff series format though. Best of 3, first 2 wins, every single team gets a home game, that stuff I do like. Now what I don't like is after the best of 3 round, extra time is added back in and the games become single elimination. Now, like I just said, I do enjoy the best of 3, and getting a home game as the lower seed will be fun, but I just think it's awkward to have this drawn-out process for round 1, which is going to have between 16 and 24 matches depending on how long each series goes, then to only have 6 games left in the playoffs after that. I would have even preferred if they kept the best of 3 going until the final. At least that way, it'll be consistent. Another worry about this best of 3 is the travel. You're going to have guys playing 3 games in about the span of a week and a half, with 2 travel days in the middle. My last big point about what I don't like about this format is the amount of teams that are now let into the playoffs. My previous favorite team, Nashville SC, has been a really good model of consistency for a new franchise. They have made the playoffs in all 3 years they've been in MLS. That is something to be proud of, but now it's time for the team to take that extra step. They have the foundation, and now there isn't an awkward COVID season. They aren't switching conferences back and forth. Their home stadium is finally built. They have no excuses. They have to take that next step this year, and the front office has to prove to the fans that they're invested in taking this team to the next level. But they didn't do a single thing to help out Hani Mukhtar in the offseason. They maybe improved on the margins. The only addition to the roster was Fafa Pakal, and that isn't necessarily going to move the needle any. Their defense got a little worse, their midfield got older, and I would honestly say that this team probably took a tiny step backwards. And for the fans that know ball, they are upset. Nashville has a great fan base that is really invested in this team and understands the game, yet the front office has shown that simply making the playoffs as a 4 or 5 seed every year is the only goal that they've set for this team. It gets them playoff revenue, sometimes it gets them a home game, and it lets them say, "We've never missed the playoffs, we're such a great team." And if the front office believes it and casual fans believe it, then why change? Why put more money into the players when what you're already spending turns a profit? There's no active desire to get better. For Nashville SC, that may be a harsh analysis of one mediocre offseason. You see this in other sports, though, baseball being the prime culprit. Take the Cincinnati Reds, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Colorado Rockies. They are all okay with being bad. It's not because they're in smaller market, it's because the owners are cheap. The only difference is they do not make the playoffs. Now look at soccer. The 8 and 9 seeds in the West last year were the Portland Timbers and Vancouver Whitecaps. In the East, it was the Columbus Crew and Charlotte FC. Were those teams bad? No, not necessarily, but they definitely weren't good. And in my opinion, the playoffs should be reserved for those teams who are great, who have shown you throughout the regular season that they deserve to compete for a championship. Giving the 2022 Whitecaps nearly the same opportunity as 2022 LAFC is criminal in my opinion. And if owners see that they're able to have the same opportunity as a 7 seed and a 2 seed, why try to improve? In baseball last year, the Padres and Phillies ran the table in the National League playoff bracket as the 2 lowest seeds. They knocked off the 4 best teams in the NL, and there was a ton of uproar. Yes, there is an argument that the supposed best teams have to show it in the playoffs. They have to win when it matters. However, when you have a regular season that is 162 games long and you're able to be knocked out in a best-of-3 series, that is not fair. The Dodgers won over 115 games last year, and the Padres won just over 85. The Dodgers showed that they are mathematically almost 30 games better than the team that knocked them out. But one bad weekend and they're out of the playoffs. It all fits together. If more teams are let into the playoffs, the randomness level is now much greater than it used to be. Because of that, teams don't have to try as hard in the regular season. Simply making it in is enough to show your fan base that you're running a successful franchise. And because of that, the teams don't have to perform as well overall. So yeah, expanded playoffs, extra rounds, best of 3. This feels like a first pass at what might end up being a really fun playoffs, but as is, this feels messy, haphazard, and like a cheap attempt at making more money. The regular season product is going to be worse. Players are going to sit out those games, and the fans who have given a ton of money to MLS, to Apple, they're going to be the ones that suffer. If this is the long-term plan, I think it's bad for the growth of the league. MLS Cup now feels like more of a random tournament at the end than what the entire season builds towards, and I'm going to end up having more regard and respect for the Supporter Shield winner. It's crazy, but in our quest to be as American as possible by having all these different formats for the playoffs, I feel like we've become more like European soccer than ever. I hope this grows on me, and like I said, I really am excited for the best-of-3 playoff series, but I'm incredibly skeptical. Either way, it's what we got, so I'll be harsh now and hopefully enjoy it as much as I can come October. But again, thank you for watching, leave a like, and I'll see you in the next one.